Thank you.
Yep, ready to go, Chair.
Thank you very much. So can I welcome everyone, all members, officers and guests, to this hybrid meeting of the Cross-Cutting Resources and Business Overview and Scrutiny Committee. We'll have to have a shorter name eventually. This meeting is able to be viewed by members of the press and public today. Therefore, may I welcome anyone that may be joining us remotely. A recording of this meeting will be made available on the Council's website, webcasting and YouTube channels. So after the meeting is concluded, should anyone else wish to view it. To confirm, as a Council, we welcome the use of the Welsh language within our public meetings, but I can confirm that I've not received any notification or request to use Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. May I remind members to refrain from using the chat facility and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you wish to speak. Please could you also keep your microphones muted when not speaking so there aren't any interruptions. Can I also remind members that as per statutory guidance made under the Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by the members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public who are watching the meeting. So can I ask please that you put your cameras on for the duration of the meeting? I think there are one or two that aren't, but that's great, thank you. Moving on to the agenda then. So first of all, just to check, have we received any apologies, Niall?
Yeah, afternoon, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillors Liam Cowles, Carl Gordon, Elizabeth Haynes, Norma Parish, Caroline Price and Nathan Knoll.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that anyone is aware of to notify at this point? I see no hands. Okay. So we'll move on then to item 3, which is the declarations of interest. Can I ask members to state whether they have any declarations of interest, please? Again, I see no hands. So usually if you find that there is any declaration to be made in the course of the meeting, please say. So we move on to item 3, which is a confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting held on the 20th of November 2024. Members, are you happy to approve these minutes? If you have any objections or points to make, please raise a hand. If none, I will take the meeting minutes as read. Yeah, and accepted? Yes, accepted. We'll note that, please. Thank you. So that moves us on to the next point, item 4, which is the action sheet. Can I ask if members have any comment to note in regard to the action sheet, which is on page 11 of your pack? Okay, Bex.
Thank you, Chair. Just to notify members, there is one action outstanding on the action sheet, but I have just received that information, so I will circulate it to members once the meeting is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you, that's very helpful. So we move on now to item 5, the substantive item for this agenda. And the purpose of this, it's the Children and Young People's Participation Strategy, and the purpose of the report is to outline the Council's first Children and Young People's Participation Strategy. So I would like to welcome the Deputy Chair of the Torvine Youth Forum, Harry, and also another member of the Forum, Jacob, who are here to give a young person's perspective on the strategy and also have the opportunity to ask any questions that they may have. So thank you both for joining us. Any comment you'd like to make, Harry or Jacob, before I go any further? No? Harry?
We'd just like to thank you for welcoming us on the behalf of the Torvine Youth Forum.
And we look forward to conversing with you.
Great, pleasure to have you with us. Thank you, and I'd like to extend thanks to the committee, to the Youth Forum, for welcoming Rebecca and myself to their meeting last week, where we had a chance to briefly discuss the strategy. So rather than relaying their feedback obviously that can come in the course of the meeting. I'd also like to welcome the officers who are here with us today. In the chamber we have Neil Jones, Philip Wilson and Jason O'Brien, and welcome also to the Executive Member, Councillor Richard Clark. I'll move on then to ask you for an introduction. I don't know, I think Neil is going to introduce this. So Neil, I'll pass to you, and then if Councillor Clark has got anything to add, we'll go to him.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, councillors in the chamber, councillors online, and our young people, representatives of the Youth Forum. I'm Neil Jones, Head of Communications, Engagement and Civil Contingencies, and I'm bringing to you today the draft Children and Young People's Participation Strategy to take us through to 2027. The report today and the strategy has been prepared by Phil, our Children and Young People's Participation Officer, with support from colleagues in the Children and Families Directorate and following good practice from around the country and the Welsh Government standards for participation with children and young people, and also with our contribution from our young people. The strategy outlines our commitment to involving children and young people in the decisions that may affect them. Councillor Clark, is there anything you'd wish to add?
I think you've summed it up very well. It is important that we take the youth voice. This was most notable in the recent Estyn engagement with the Education Service. And I look forward to the Youth Council grilling me at some future date and actively participating in this process. So nothing further from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Neil. Right, I think it's the opportunity now, colleagues, to open it up. If there's any questions people would like to raise in relation to the report. Okay, well, don't want to put... Oh, Councillor Seaborn.
Thank you, Chair. Having read through the report, I think it's an excellent report, and I'm really pleased that we've got the influence of young people. On reading the report, it says that we are expecting feedback from the young people, but I'm just wondering what feedback we intend to give our young people with their contributions to the process.
Okay. Perhaps if I invite Phil to respond to that, and then perhaps I'd like to see if Harry and Jacob have got a comment that they'd like to offer in relation to that as well.
Good afternoon, Chair. It's a good point. Feedback at the moment is a big gap, really. Feedback from the Youth Forum especially. We find that organisations, internal and external, have a need and a will to engage with young people. They consult, which is normally a one-off consultation, then they go away, and the young people don't really see them again. So a big part of this strategy really is to try and put some training in place for internal and maybe external partners, so that when they engage with young people, they understand what the best practice is, what models they can use, and really recognise the importance of feeding back to young people on where their views have gone and what difference they've made. And I think it would be for working with young people really to find out what feedback they would like. I don't know whether Harry and Jacob might have a better view on what feedback would be most appropriate really for young people.
Thank you for that, Phil. Harry and Jacob, your opportunity if you'd like to come in. Just to ask the question, Phil's given a bit of an outline. Is that been your experience, Harry, in the forum to date?
Yeah, I can confirm that multiple times we've had people come in, but they then don't show up. Yeah, just a little bit of feedback from what we've said, just like what Phil said, would be something that we much appreciate. Okay,
and again, can I perhaps ask, is there a way that that might be usefully done, i.e. verbal, written, what would be helpful, just as a point, really?
Written or verbal, we'd appreciate both, just some form of feedback to make sure that what we've said is actually being put into good use, so that the council members feel like they've actually done something other than talk to somebody for an hour.
I totally agree, thank you.
Okay, and Neil would like to come in as well.
Yes, I'd just like to add to that. The Chief Executive has made youth voice and listening to young people an important part of the Council's work, an important part of the work of leadership team, and the report references that this year we held a takeover day for young people, which was taking over the roles of the leadership team, and they did absolutely brilliantly at it. As Stephen mentioned last week, made some points that perhaps wouldn't have been generated if we hadn't had their views and their thoughts and their young people's perspective. And part of the feedback loop from that day is those young people are returning to the council to hold leadership team to account in January for the actions they put and that were agreed on that first session. So a real good example of that feedback loop being completed and really demonstrates the commitment to ensuring we get better at providing feedback when we engage groups.
Thank you very much. I think I've got Councillor Nick Haller. Would like to come in, Nick?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. First of all, Harry and Jacob, very welcome. It's lovely to see you here at this meeting this afternoon. I want to talk about 3.8 in the process. It says additional engagement tends to be one way with council teams approaching the young people and asking them about specific issues, with little opportunity for people to proactively tell the services about the issues that are important to them. So whilst I can see Harry and Jacob at this meeting today, what more opportunities can we give the youth to be able to talk to us about the concerns that they may have? And how can they do that?
Yeah, I think Phil would like to pick up first.
So I think if this strategy is adopted, the next stage then really is to look at maybe a training programme for officers and departments so that they feel they got the skills, first of all, to speak to young people. We have set up the Youth Alliance, which brings together all youth forums, hopefully, from around Torvine. So that may be an opportunity for officers and teams and service departments maybe to look at which organisations they would best like to consult with, really. And best practice is for not a one-off meeting to try and build a relationship with the organisation or the youth forum. A good example would be the HDRC. Gareth Cook's been very good. He's come to the forum twice now and he's coming again. First of all, you got the feedback from young people, and then he's come and showed how their views and opinions were being used in his project, and then he's going to come a third time just to get a bit more clarity. And so it's kind of an ongoing engagement rather than a one-off. We find one-off tends to be slightly tokenistic and lacks feedback again. So it's trying to involve young people early rather than come with a strategy that's being written, and finding ways that engage with young people. An example would be a 20-minute PowerPoint for young people might not be so useful. There's actually just splitting them off into small groups and getting their views and opinions. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers it or not, but I'm happy to expand more if needed.
Could I come back on that? I think, to me, it sounds that, do they have, coming from the old days when I used to be in the Navy, we used to have like a pulse call. So for the young people to be able to make contact with the Torvine, is there a central number or a central service that they could actually make contact within Torvine to relay their problems or their issues that they would like to relay to the council? Is there one central point of contact to Torvine, like a help desk, that the young people can talk to relate to the issues that they might have or the concerns that they want to relay back into Torvine? Sorry, my phone's going off. Apologise.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And I think Phil can perhaps elaborate a little, and then I'll bring in Harry and Jacob to see if they've got a comment as well.
Yeah, we are doing work on that. I mean, the way the youth forum is structured at the moment is a rep from each comprehensive school, their school forums are members of the youth forum, so they're in their school council. So in a way, any young person can speak to their person in their school council, and then that issue can be brought to the youth forum and then up through the council. On the website, there is a Your Voice email as well, if they just wanted to email in a concern or issue, and then that can be passed via the forum via me as an agenda item. But we're always open for new ways and to engage with young people. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Harry and Jacob might have a view on that.
Can I just come back? If just one young person wants to engage with the council regarding this, surely we should be open to that conversation happening. And how can we address that single person that would like to engage with the council, that maybe not want to go to the engagement through the group, but they want to be able to talk individually to the council regarding maybe an issue or a concern that they have, to help that along? Is that something that could be looked at, or is that something that's not within reach?
Well, in the strategy, we sort of got a section there, ways to engage, and it does give some options there, and one of them is contact your local councillor, so that could be an option. But the options we set out in the strategy really is, come through the youth service, tips is in there, contact your local councillor, or contact one of the partner organisations in the Youth Alliance, okay. and that'd be a way of getting to us, really.
Okay, thank you.
Obviously, Councillor, what we also have there is for any young person who's receiving a service from within the council, whether it be through school, through education, through social care, they have an individual voice throughout that process as well. So we very much take on that in terms of both individual planning and then our strategic outlook and strategic planning as well.
I think it's important to have an individual voice as also a collective voice within anything like this.
Yeah, I think that's noted, Councillor Haller, and I think obviously there's the normal routes for individuals raising points of issue with the council exist, but I think there's also some strength in young people being able to share their concerns with others, to be able to articulate those. So I'll go to Harry and Jacob to see if there's anything they'd like to add before I move on to other members.
Yeah, another way that an individual person could contact us is we've recently opened up a social media page, and we're going to allow people to contact us through the social media page, and then if they want any further contact, then we can arrange it.
Right.
That's really helpful. Thank you for that, Harry.
Yeah.
Okay, I now have Councillor Ashley, then Councillor Seaborn, and then Councillor Williams in the chamber. So, Councillor Ashley.
Good afternoon, Harry and Jacob. Really interesting to hear what you had to say on this matter. What I want to ask is a fairly general question. When presented with something from the council, average young person says, "What's this?" And I've spoke to a fair few young people over the years. I'm a member of the board of CCYP, and a lot general question answer I get is, what is a councillor, what they do? I've been a councillor for an awful long time, unfortunately, and I want you guys are on youth council, which means you probably know a little bit more than most, but how do you convey that back to them, what you're doing? And then the other part of this question is, I I read the report, and I think the guys that put this together have been fairly explicit, but it's quite a lot of technical stuff that we as councillors and council officers do. How do you get on with it? Because, you know, it's not easy, and there's a lot of jargon in there, and every bit of council work has jargon. You know, social services, education, whatever it is, and this is another bit of the wonderful world of jargon which you're going to encounter when you go to work. And I just wondered how you got on with explaining that to your peers, to young people, you say majors you, because if you're doing that and having to explain to young people I encounter of your age group, I have to sit there for quite a while and say what all this is in plain English. So I'm interested how you get on with that. And also same as the guy, person who's introducing as well, because this is not easy. And I think you guys sitting there talking to us about it isn't easy either. Well done, you know, and I'd be interested to hear what you have to say on it.
That's great, thank you. And I think Harry and Jake would like the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, the way that we find easiest to explain to our peers about what we do and how we do it is, well, first off, from now on, we're going to start posting, I think even recording our meetings and posting them to social media for our peers to see. Our website also has regular updates, and we report back to the schools that we're representing to tell them what we're doing, and if there's anybody that wants us to say something to the council and bring it up, so that even our councils can be heard and we explain to them exactly what we are doing.
That's very helpful, thank you. If I could move then to Councillor Seaborn.
Thank you, Chair. On the matter of participation, I just wanted to highlight that we have an agenda item on council as public question time. That isn't age limited. We can have questions from young people as well as all members of the community. And we're also trying to encourage young people to participate in our scrutiny committees. So at any time, we've got officers in the council, Rebecca. If you contact Rebecca, she can direct you in any way if you have a particular education question or an environmental question or even a full council question. So thank you.
That's very helpful, and Neil Jones would like to respond.
Yeah, very good point, Councillor Seaborn. And with the establishment of the social media channels for the Youth Forum, we publicise all scrutiny activity, upcoming scrutiny activity, to try and get engagement from the community. We'll make sure that every time we do that, we tag in the young people and they have the opportunity to ask questions.
Oh, that's very helpful. I'll bring in Councillor Williams and Councillor Janet Jones, and then again opportunity for comments from young people.
Thank you. A suggestion and a couple of questions, if that's okay. Another route that there can be two-way conversation, just a suggestion to our Youth Forum colleagues, is bearing in mind that all school governing bodies, so including secondary schools, would have a local authority representative as a governor. So that would also be another means of directing questions and comments, is actually through the school governing process, because obviously schools have a very key part in this two-way process. A couple of, I don't know whether they're questions or suggestions, but I was reading the background paper and looking at this concept of rights respecting schools, which have some very clear criteria to them. I found it very interesting that one of the phrases in that was that participation is an entitlement, not a permission. I think that's a very strong principle to be adhered to. But I guess this is a particular question for our Youth Forum colleagues. How would you, if this term is something that resonates with you, rights respecting schools, and how we could highlight that in our different schools? That's one question. The other question I was looking at in terms of training, I really liked this, the Lundy model principle of participation, which looks at 5 principles of communication: space, voice, audience and influence. And I was wondering whether that could be a framework that could be built into the training, because to me that seems a very concise way of training people in active participation. Hope that's clear.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williams. I think if I give Harry and Jacob a chance to respond back to those points. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I couldn't quite catch what she was asking. Would she be kind enough to repeat exactly what she was asking?
I'll just go to one point maybe. It was the term rights respecting schools, which I was interested in hearing your comments about, and how you would understand that principle.
Well, I think definitely schools deserve the right, or any student in schools deserve the right to talk to the council and get their point through. Ways that it can be done is quite difficult, but there is some ways that we do it. The website, the social media, and also through school council. And also I openly say to people, is there anything you want me to discuss with the council about? And I'll hear them out and I'll discuss it for them. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we now have Councillor Janet Jones.
Thanks, Chair. Welcome, Harry and Jacob, to the meeting. Mine are mainly observations. How difficult do you find it, if at all, to get in contact with officers to discuss any issues? And do you find there any gaps that have missed out in the report, something which you would like to highlight?
Okay.
To individually talk to them, I think it's a little bit difficult. But if we have a conversation with Phil, he normally would be more than happy to contact them and either arrange a meeting or bring our points to them if we ever needed to talk about something.
Oh, that's great. And do you think that we've missed anything out in this strategy? Is there anything that you think is missed out, or you'd like to make more prominent or priority?
I think they've done a great job with the participation challenge.
Well, that's good. Thank you very much. Thanks for your concise answers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And just in case Phil or Neil would like to come in relation to that as well.
I think it's just regards to the Lundy model. It has been used quite extensively through the world, really, to give millions of young people a voice, I think. So it'd be nice if we could adopt it into our training. It seems to me, when we were looking at models, a fairly robust model that's been used a lot, and it's fairly, actually delivering it is quite complicated, but the actual principle of the 4 areas, and just getting a nice, comfortable space, making sure that it's in a language that young people understand, and making sure that people with influence do get to hear those views, really. So hopefully we can do some training into next year, really.
Thanks, Phil.
Go ahead, Neil.
I'd just like to add in the question about access to officers. Obviously, a lot is routed through Phil, but already our youth forum has a real good selection of officers coming to them with their on their subject matter. And on a couple of occasions, the chief executive will pop in and have a conversation and a catch-up. So I think that route to having those conversations is wide open and being really well used.
Thanks, Neil. Just for an update. Thanks very much.
Thank you for that. I think that was very helpful. If I might just quickly ask one thing, which was actually, you've explained about how you've drawn members of the Youth Forum from across the secondary schools, but was there any opportunity for children younger to be able to feed in? I think there was some reference to sort of making use of the school councils, but would you be able to outline a little on that, Phil?
Yeah, we're just in the process of hopefully setting up a junior forum, working with primary schools, and that's in very early stages. There's a lot of primary schools. It's quite easy with secondary because there were 6. So it's just getting the structures in place, really. I'm hoping to trial with one school cluster, maybe Westmont cluster, primary schools that are in that cluster from starting January, and see how we can get younger people's input. Hopefully the junior forum will be up and running. If not, we have got a great play service, and that would be my second option, really, consulting through the summer play schemes with younger children. But hopefully, like I say, we'll be able to do it through primary schools.
That sounds very helpful and encouraging. So I'll move on then. We have a question now, I think, from Councillor Ashley and then Councillor Thomas.
That's interesting, Phil and Neil. What you said about going down to junior, Cumbrian Community Council, all the time I've been on it, has had an environmental quiz, and they're incredibly well tuned into that, which, bearing in mind some of the work the council does on global climate change, etc., and those of us that got grandchildren, they know that question. I wonder how much of this filters back in this forum, and certainly with older pupils and students. My question really is what you get back. I'm absolutely fascinated by this. I know a grandchild, even at 7.5, 8, is asking questions, and getting back from a selection of junior. I'd be interested to hear what we get back and what officers do to to answer that, because that is the point of this exercise. The Lundy stuff looks interesting. It's not just an island. I want to make this gag mine. It's not just an island. The Bristol Channel is a very useful, does seem a useful way to engage. But if the point of the engagement is to do better services to meet the council's aims, and also to convey to us as members what we need to look at. And I think most of us do try and talk to our younger constituents, even the ones that don't vote, because they are going to be the voters of tomorrow, and they are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. And at that point you do make. I'd be interested to hear what your views are about what we're engaging on, because that's the important bit of this.
Okay, I think I'll give the opportunity to officers first, and then to the young people to make any comment, because obviously we've had some bits about feedback and feedback mechanisms, but I think the way that things are brought forward is what you're asking here, is how they...
It certainly is, yes, David, thank you.
Okay.
Well put.
Okay, Phil, and then I'll go to Harry and Jacob.
I think I'm speaking on young people's behalf, really, but I think what we get back is honesty. Young people are very honest in their opinions, and also enables us to focus on issues that are important to young people rather than other issues in a way. Topics that young people are working on at the moment is around mental health and well-being, so is their input into that, what's important to them, what they think can make a difference on those areas. Vaping is another issue that young people are interested in, and they'd be working to get information out. It's not just relevant to adults. They get information out in a way that's interesting to young people, hopefully, and slightly more imaginative ways of doing things possibly than if it was just an adult-led campaign on something. So it's trying to, it's an easy way really for the feedback to be used in ways that relate to young people rather than, maybe we said before, there's lots of jargon. It kind of cuts through that because it needs to be, if young people are writing it and running the information and putting it into reports, it needs to be easy for them to read, so there's more chance of that happening, I think.
Thank you for that. Before I give Harry and Jacob an opportunity, I think Beck's just helpfully has made the point.
Thanks, Chair. So I just wanted to come in and remind members I met with the Youth Forum in the summer and discussed the upcoming visioning sessions for each of the scrutiny committees, and they were really helpful. They put forward a number of items for you to consider, and then as part of your visioning exercises, you've selected a number of items that they had in fact put forward. So I think that's a key way that as members you are receiving their feedback and considering items that are of interest and of importance to them as well.
Okay.
Can I, Chair, can I just come back while I got the adults on it, as it were, and just ask what items were of concern? I actually want to know. Well, I got mental health, but I mean, jobs, housing, all that stuff are bread and butter issues. There must be transition issues where young people are thinking of transitioning. Those issues must be things that come up. I'm just wondering, because you must get those as issues. I'm only going back to when I used to do youth work and what young people were concerned of. They can't be things that have disappeared at all.
No, I think that's right, and I think Bex will give something, and I think Neil would like to come in then as well.
Sorry,
yes,
just
please.
Quickly off the top of my head, so I know there were issues with additional learning needs, which I know is going to Education Committee. They raised homelessness as an important issue, which is on the Adults and Communities agenda. Recycling was another big issue that is being considered by Economy and Environment. So some big issues that were important to them are in the work programme for each of the committees in the year ahead.
That's good to hear, Bex.
Okay, Neil, and then I'm conscious you've been waiting a bit, Colette, so I'll bring you in after this.
Yeah, it was just to make a point that we're also, it's very important the agenda is owned by young people, but we've also got some wicked issues in the council that we face, and we also want to make sure we're engaging with young people on some of the issues we want to get their views on as well. So we've mentioned recycling, and obviously we're all familiar with our Raise the Rate campaign and our target of 70%. Engaging young people on that is going to be important, and also on other wicked issues we face, the big things challenging the council. And the Chief Executive, you'll often hear him talk about cognitive diversity and broadening the breadth of people providing an input into our thinking. And we have rebel groups in Torvine. These are our staff groups that think about those wicked issues. Recently, they've done some work on digitising the council. We call it digital flooding. But in the new year, the intention is that we have conversations with young people called Rebel Youth, which mirror the conversations going on with our rebel groups, our staff groups. That way, the young person's views can get pulled into the feedback on the rebel topics by the rebel groups, and that has a straight line in the leadership team for consideration. And recently we had the rebel groups coming into leadership team to give us their feedback on digital flooding. So in the new year, that is another route for young people to get their voices heard at the top table of the council.
Thank you for that, Neil. That's very helpful. So, Councillor Colette Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask about the spread, really, of the Youth Forum and the Junior Youth Forum. Are all areas of Torvine represented, north and south, please?
Yes, so all areas represented, and it's through the comprehensive schools. So the 6 comprehensive schools in north and south send reps to the Youth Forum, and then any information from those meetings is fed back through the youth councils to each school in each area. So yeah, it's a spread across the county.
Yeah, that's helpful, I think. And as I say, it's interesting to hear the plans around the Junior Youth Forum. Just checking, Harry and Jacob, did you want to come in?
Going back to what Councillor Ashley mentioned, he said about jobs and housing, are they still relevant to us? And I would like to say yes, they are. Last year specifically, we talked a bit on job positions not being available for people under the age of 18, and how many people under that age struggle to find a job. and yes, we have been talking about it.
Furthermore, we have had some visitors come in to talk to us about housing and the help there are for the young people around leaving college if there is no housing for them. We've been addressing those issues as a youth forum very recently.
Well, that's very helpful and confirms, I think, that some things are eternally important for young people. Did I see that you wanted to come in, Jason? Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come back on a point that Councillor Thomas raised then, in terms of, I guess, that geographical split of children and young people involved in participation. And, of course, what we need to ensure as well is that it isn't just around a geographical split, but it's around young people who have different experiences as well, and different experiences within the Council. And I guess what I wanted to reference there, Councillor Thomas, because I know you chair the Corporate Parenting Board as well, is as a mechanism for children and young people to input into the Council through other doorways as well. You know, as we do through the Corporate Parenting Boards, where we have, you know, care experienced young people representative there as well.
Neil?
Yeah, thanks. Following on from that point with Jason's, really, we're always very conscious that the young people on our youth forum are already engaged young people. And Phil has made it a bit of a mission of his to ensure that we go beyond the easy-to-reach young people and broaden our reach into the hard-to-reach. Now, that's where our youth and play service become fantastic conduits to those young people, but also our Youth Alliance that Phil has created is a broad spectrum of youth groups from clubs and societies, but also children who might be in our PRU. There is all kinds of wide representation, which gives us that greater assurance that we're not just speaking to those who are already got an investment in what the Council does.
Thank you for that. I see no more hands, but one thing I'd like to ask of the officers here is how we're thinking so far about ensuring the strategy is embedded across the Council by all sort of service areas. Conscious, obviously, in your service area, it's fairly mainstream, Jason, but I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that. Oh, Neil, thank you.
I'm jumping in only to stop Phil probably having to repeat himself, but Phil's plan will involve training within our directorates in the new year. Phil works alongside our public engagement officer, Jan, so it's a twin approach that we make sure we're not missing any part of our community. So Phil and Jan this year conducted training with directorates, and that will be the approach next year that we have, because we have a participation strategy which covers all our other stakeholders, and it's still vital that we constantly train people in our directorates that they put public engagement with all our stakeholders much further upstream than we sometimes have traditionally. So that's a part of their work, and they take that twin-pronged approach to it.
Thank you for that, and perhaps on behalf of colleagues I could ask that members are considered for training opportunities as well. I think Councillor Ashley, you have a hand.
Neil's just raised an opportunity question on my part. I'm, as I said, a board member of CCYP. I've got the youth centre sat in both my borough and community council ward, and across the road from there is the erstwhile and very, very, very well organised Torvine Sea Cadets and Marines, and we've also got several scout troops. And a lot of these organisations now have got public service in there as well as what they do. So it does strike me as there's tremendous opportunity to cross-fertilise with the Youth Council. I wonder how much of that actually goes on, because when I ask questions about stuff like this, I get an interesting answer. I don't think there's a lot of it, or hasn't been a lot of it. Maybe you're going to disavow me of that opinion. I hope so, because the important thing is we've got a riches when it comes to a lot of these organisations. Maybe the question needs to be asked, and I don't think it's up to Youth Council to do that, but the inclusion of the uniforms, other organisations like CCYP and others, around the place into maybe networking out. And I think that's a question members ask, because they've got these places. A lot of them fundraise off us in other forums, or we support them. So I wonder where Neil and yourself go with that, because it's a valid question.
Yeah, certainly. I think Councillor Ashley, we've had a partial response at least here, because Phil outlined the wider Youth Alliance. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Phil, that would perhaps address some of the points Councillor Ashley makes.
Yeah, CCYP and Scouts are part of the Youth Alliance. CCYP hasn't come to a meeting. Their young people haven't been present at a meeting yet, but they're more than welcome. Scouts are active members of the Youth Alliance. And I'd say any councillors that are on boards of CCYP or any organisation like that do promote the Youth Alliance, because that is the easiest way for them to have a voice within the council, really. The Alliance meets 3 times a year. We generally meet in school time, so it's more accessible for young people that at schools like Crown Bridge. It's slightly easier for them to meet in school hours. So yeah, I think that's the main route in, and I'm always happy to go and visit organisations if they like to meet me.
Thank you for that.
Very helpful.
Chair, can
offer.
I come back?
Yep.
Chair, can I come back to that's a very interesting offer. I'm actually, along with certain other people on this call, I'm actually the borough member on there, so I'll take you up on your offer, Phil.
Good, you have a route, so that's wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Ashley.
Thank you.
I'll move on to Councillor Evans, I think, has a question.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chair. My question is, we've got a lot of young carers within Torvine. How does their voice come through Harry and Jacob? You know, is there anything they get quite a lot from the young carers regarding issues they need dealing with?
We do get a lot of response from young carers. I'm peers with a lot of young carers, a lot of my friends are, and I'm currently trying to see if we can get some of the young carer extracurricular activities to be talking with the Youth Alliance about what they want to do. And another one of the subjects of what we wanted to improve in the area was how we can help young carers.
That's really helpful, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Okay, I see no more hands. So really give the opportunity if Harry and Jacob have got any particular questions they'd like to ask us as a scrutiny committee. And you don't have to, by the way, but you know, if there's anything that's a burning issue, feel free. Please go ahead.
Yeah, is there any way that, or how can you guys make sure that, or how do we know our feedback will be brought back? Is there any methods that you're thinking of, or other meetings, or even meetings where you might invite us to one of your meetings instead of us inviting you?
Oh, sorry, that's a good point. I think, well, first point to make is obviously that these are recorded, so these are sort of, if you like, publicly available, and we have to hold ourselves to account. Second is that we'll make recommendations, and we'll invite you to stay on as we look at the recommendations that come from this committee, and then we seek to get a response back from council officers in response to those recommendations, and absolutely no reason why from this forum they can't be shared with the youth forum. And it may be that we actually need to look at some kind of mechanism to ensure that anything that you bring forward to scrutiny or question is actually fed back to the youth forum in some way. I think it's only right in terms of closing that feedback loop that you've alluded to. So it's a challenge for us, but one I think we're picking up. And Councillor Williams wants to come in.
This is just a suggestion that maybe one way that we could sort of increase that participation with yourselves on the youth forum is maybe once in a while, perhaps the chairs of the specific scrutiny committees actually come to the youth forum, because we always
She's beaten me.
Sorry?
Sorry.
I think that's accepted as a strong recommendation endorsed by one of the chairs there. So that's positive. I'm conscious that.
Could I say that? I didn't mean to say that. I thought I was muted. Sorry about that, Chair.
Okay, well let's try and ensure that we are mute when we are.
Yeah. Could I? I was next in line, and what I was going to say was exactly what Lucy said. Sorry about that, Lucy. I invite you to scrutiny when appropriate. I mean, we just had one on green space, and that would have been brilliant to have a young person view on green space, because young people use green space all the time, parks and you know, playing soccer in places and things like that, and using young space. So actually having a young person's view on that would have helped us, I think, with that scrutiny. But there's a lot in all our scrutinies where actually having the assistance of people that use that space, young people and possibly older people, you know, very much older people, would you know, it's a cross-generational thing that sometimes we don't get.
Fair point, yes, and I think the immediate suggestion in relation to chairs is one I think we should pick up.
Yes.
I'd highlight, obviously, to colleagues that will be making some recommendations, so let's hold these things in mind. I'm conscious that we have Councillor Seaborn now.
Thank you, Chair. And just as a clarification, we come hot foot from a Public Service Board Scrutiny Committee, which is actually acting regionally with our other councillors within the area. And I just wondered whether we had thought, because obviously there's a young person's strategy linked to the Public Service Board, how in future we're going to link to regional activities. I know we're inundating you with a lot of issues at the moment, Harry and Jacob, but you can then see how it all spans out into the Wales-wide issue. Thank you.
Phil would like to come in, I think, and if Harry and Jacob would like to come in as well. So, Phil?
Yeah, just we are hosting a regional youth forum meeting here tomorrow. So it's the first one we've had really for a while because of COVID and things like that. But hopefully that become a useful going forward for the regional forums to come together and just discuss what they've been working on. Interestingly, Caerphilly's done a lot of work on vaping, so it'd be nice to be able to share the work they've done with our forum that is just starting that piece of work.
So, Harry and Jacob?
Yeah, I was just wondering how you plan on telling other young people, other than in the council, about the youth strategy, because since we're part of the council, we know, but other young people might not.
Okay, I think I'll pass that to Neil and Phil.
So once it's been adopted, it will go out to each of the different departments within the council, especially the ones that work with children and young people. And the hope would be that it comes down through different managers. So an example would be for children in care, that would come down through their departments. And if an officer is working with a young person, they would make them aware of that strategy. And young carers, their teams there, would be passing it to that forum for to pass on to other young carers, and maybe through youth councils and things like that.
And yeah, I think some sensible suggestions there. That makes sense, Harry and Neil.
Yes, thanks. And once adopted, as we do with all council decisions, we'll share it on all our communication channels. So it will get wide coverage that the council has got this strategy in place. Now, not many young people may follow our channels, so we'll come to you at that point to hopefully engage with you to share via your emerging social media presence, and we'll look to reach out to any other young groups that might be involved with us in this area of work and in the Youth Alliance, so that it's shared through their channels, and include schools. It'd be really important that schools make everyone that follows their channels aware that we have this in place.
I hope that gives some clarification, and but I think, you know, suggestions are still going to be welcome if young people have them to help disseminate this, I would suggest. Okay, I see no more hands, so I think I'll give the opportunity for the exec member to have any concluding remarks, and perhaps if the officers have got any closing remarks they'd like to make. So, Councillor Clark.
I think the benefits of involving the youth has been clearly outlined by the performance of both Harry and Jacob today, and I don't mean performance in a derogatory way. I really thought they were here to observe your deliberations. They have faced a question time and answered the questions admirably, and certainly far better than my introductory remarks, far more professional and polished. But on the wider issue, this is something that we need to go out to all our communities and young people, because at the end of the day, the decisions we're making as looking around the screen, quite older people are going to affect both Jacob and Harry and their cohorts and future cohorts far more than it's going to affect us. So unless we get to hear their message and understand that message when we're making decisions, myself in my portfolio role, ward members, scrutiny chairs, whatever role you're fulfilling, the youth's voice is an important voice for the future of the borough. The one thing I did put my hand up briefly following Steve, and I know Steve attended, as did other members on this call, about carers. We do have the Care Leavers event every year, and believe me, those guys are more than happy to tell us exactly what they feel about council services and how we can better help them and include them. So they might not, but Harry and Jacob reassure us that they feed into those systems. As a single group of people, they certainly have the opportunity, and I would encourage more members to participate next year. But that's not a criticism of Steve, because I know he actively supported that, as did others. Sorry, Chair, they weren't really short remarks. There was a bit of a ramble.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. And can I just check if the officers have any concluding remarks they would like to make? No? That's fine. Okay. So, Harry and Jacob, is there anything you'd like to say while we still have the officers with? If I perhaps explain, what will happen next is that the officers will have a chance to leave, then the scrutiny committee will look to determine any recommendations that we would like to make as a result of this scrutiny process and discussion. And Harry and Jacob, you're very welcome to stay for that, but I also appreciate that you may have school commitments, so this is your opportunity if there's some key points you want to leave us with.
We just want to say thank you guys for listening, and we look forward to collaborating with you all in the future.
And I think that feeling is mutual. Thank you. Right, I'll allow the officers the opportunity to leave. Thank you very much for your contributions and your questions and to responses. Something like this, it's quite difficult to know which way it's going to go. So there were a lot of questions, and thanks a lot, everyone. If I can remind members that the meeting is still in formal proceedings and being webcast, so thanks very much for all the questions. I think a lot of good points made, a lot of good discussion. So just to remind members what's being asked of us as a scrutiny committee, we've been tasked with reviewing this draft children and young people strategy, determining whether the strategy will be effective in encouraging and supporting our young people to participate and have a say in council discussions that may affect them. And in answering this, the committee is asked to look at our core values, the models of participation, avenues of getting involved, mechanisms and measures for evaluating the impact of the strategy, and our opportunity to make any recommendations. So I'll open it up. I think we've had quite a few points that probably do form recommendations. So I'll go to Councillor Haller first.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's just going back to the question I asked about communication and helping the youth, the younger people have a easier access into talking. I get the fact that they can talk to the local chair, the local councillor and things like that, but some form of direct communication would be useful in some form.
And I think we probably have a bit more information that we now know that there are sort of social media channels that the Youth Forum have that can perhaps be a part of that. So, okay, I'll open it up.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Janet Jones.
I take up the point of inviting young people to our scrutiny meetings. I think that's a recommendation I'd like to put forward, because I'd like to welcome to my scrutiny committee, which is young children and families.
Okay, thank you for that. I think certainly it seems that we've had some of that feedback as Bex has set out in terms of the visioning, but perhaps there's that opportunity for being part of the process is what you're suggesting, I think. So perhaps for a meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Can't see any more hands. Okay. I think. Oh, sorry, Councillor Williams.
I'm not quite sure whether this would be best served as a recommendation or as a seminar, but it would be. I think it would be useful to see how the training specifically is rolled out across, the different departments, and also maybe how that's being tackled within schools as well. That could be made.
And perhaps if we could note as well that the point we made, which was that members also are included in training provision. Are people happy that we include that as well? Yep. I see nods. Okay. Right. Councillor Ashley.
The encouragement of when topics come up suitable for chairs to go to youth council meetings or vice versa.
Yep, I think that's a fair point as well, that we actually have an awareness of when the Youth Forum meetings are and the opportunity. I suppose my only caveat is simply that really we would need to check, are they happy for us to come, rather than force ourselves on them.
Well, I'd agree with that, David. It, as I said, where appropriate, I think is the word.
Yeah, entirely. Thank you. Councillor Seaborn.
Thank you, Chair. I think we need to also be what's the word I'm looking for? Relying on their school calendar as well. Obviously, we don't want to be issuing invites during exam times, and it may be that they don't want a lot of adults at their one meeting, so we need to have appropriate meetings at the appropriate time. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very valid point, and I think it behoves us to liaise very closely with Phil and the chair and vice chair of the forum. Councillor Evans?
Yeah, my comment is more about bringing the primary schools into the youth forum. And when they do, if they could update us and to see how it's working and how it'll incorporate with the older children.
So yeah, I think that's a recommendation that we are very supportive of going forward with the Junior Youth Forum, and we would appreciate progress update on how that's going forward. Is that a fair summary? Any other questions? And then I'll go to Bex in a minute to just check what we've captured in terms of all your comments. Sorry, Councillor Ashley, is that a legacy hand? Or
No, Steve jumped me on the Junior Youth Forum. I think that's a very welcome development if we can get it, because the Year 6 probably got more time than the ones in the senior schools. The other one I think probably needs a bit of work on is how we get participation from the other voluntary organisations, because I think that does need a bit more work.
I think the point here, I think, would be that it's helpful to know how and maybe there's something for us to ask here about how all the youth voices are captured through the Youth Alliance.
Thank you, David. You've added an extra bit.
And having some summary of that would be helpful for this scrutiny committee, so we can understand it and visualise it. Is that a fair point for everybody? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I see no more hands, so I'll ask Bex to... Oh, sorry. We've got...
Harry and Jack.
Harry. Sorry, Harry.
Yeah, to add on to what Councillor Seaborn said, I definitely think people, we do need to... It'd be great if they go on school schedule, as obviously there's exams which got multiple of our members towards the end of last year unable to talk or visit the council, and also recently some of the council members have been saying that they'd like some meetings or some hours during meetings where we don't have somebody come in and we just talk about the issues that affects us. So yes. I think definitely she is right that schedules are great.
Thank you for that. I think it really reinforces the point, and I was conscious when we came to the Youth Forum, Bex and I, that you really wanted the opportunity to have some discussions of things that were of concern to you, and we shouldn't be trying to hijack meetings in any way. This is actually about meaningful discussion about the things you want to talk about. So, Bex, can I ask you to just summarise what we've got so far from the members' comments?
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendations and points put forward there were with regards to easier access, having a direct point of communication in for young people. There was the recommendation with regards to appropriate invitations to young people at scrutiny committees, taking into consideration timetables, etc., as just raised. There was the recommendation around the training being rolled out, how it's going to be tackled in schools, and Councillor Williams, you mentioned earlier about governing bodies, so making sure they're aware of that training, as well as members, Councillor Williams, you raised. Again, there was the consideration of inviting chairs to youth council meetings, again, where appropriate and where that's an invitation from the youth council rather than the other way around. There was about the primary schools coming on board. Obviously they've got the Youth Forum, but they did mention the work around bringing primary schools into cluster work, so you'd like an update on that. And then there was reviewing the Youth Alliance membership, because Councillor Ashley mentioned voluntary organisations as well there. So obviously those are recommendations with regards to delivering the action plan, the strategy, the Children and Youth Participation Strategy. But can I just check, obviously you've received the draft today, so this will be going on then for further approval before adoption. Are you all satisfied that that strategy is comprehensive and robust and will deliver? Yeah, okay, thank you.
I think, and I think it was very helpful to have your comments, Harry and Jacob, that you felt that it had actually involved you, and you felt it was a good strategy. So, that's the most important thing, let's be honest. So that was very helpful to have your contribution on that, so thanks. Perhaps just one other small point, and it's really just a point of checking, really. Would it be helpful if we were aware of the means, because I think there was mention of your voice email, and I just wondered if that was some means of us being able to relay some points through in terms of summary or information, just a check as much as anything else.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I add that to the action sheet, Chair, and I can circulate that email address if that is what is in operation. Yeah.
Can I just check, you happy with that, Youth Forum members?
I think that they'd all be happy. Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, thanks. I don't want to, I don't want to sort of ride roughshod, but it seemed to me a good way of making sure we could get some information back, because you did ask about feedback, which is very helpful. Okay, is there anything else, colleagues? No? Are we happy with all the recommendations?
Sorry, Chair. Just the point of, two-way feedback. It's all well and good us feeding back to young people, but they need to receive our feedback and we need to receive theirs. So it should be a two-way process on feedback.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
And could we make sure it's not in? I did raise the point about jargon and stuff,
Yeah.
making sure it's in good plain English.
I think we would make every effort to do that, and I would be confident that young people would take us up if there was something that wasn't very clear.
I think they're too polite sometimes, Chair.
I look to you, Harry and Jacob. You know, if there's something that isn't clear, you know, tell us, because it's the best way of us getting the feedback. Right. Any final comments? No. Thank you very much. So we, I think, have gone through the detail of that. So can I thank everybody for their contributions? A lot of points made, a lot of discussion, and some really helpful questions. And I think I can speak on behalf of the committee saying it was invaluable having you both with us, Harry and Jacob. We really appreciated it. So thank you very much. You acquitted yourselves really, really well, as Councillor Clark said, and I'd have to second that. So congratulations for being such good representatives for the forum. Okay, and I think then we draw to a conclusion by pointing out that the next meeting of Cross-Cutting Scrutiny Committee is on Wednesday the 28th of January, when we're scrutinising the budget timely, given Welsh Government announcements around budget coming out today, and we'll be scrutinising the county plan delivery plan as well. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending and contributing, and I now close the meeting.